Welcome to Building My Legacy podcast. This podcast is designed for leaders and entrepreneurs who want to leave a legacy and will provide strategies that focus upon key elements for legacy creation, determining your desired impact and its benefit, increasing your legacy's reach by engaging key stakeholders, planning, prioritizing, and executing. Here's your host, Dr. Lois Sonste.
Welcome, everybody, to today's podcast, Building My Legacy. I have with me again, Nikki Bradley. She is a branding marketing consultant. She has come out of corporate America, and she has worked with the government and with minority groups, especially on collaborative projects. And so I've reached out to Nikki because she has a perspective that I think we can all learn from. So Nikki, do you want to just talk a little bit about your background in collaboration and what you've done, and then we'll move on from there.
Sure. So I came out of corporate America. I have worked with large companies and smaller. And one of the things that I learned, because I worked in strategic partnerships and channel distribution partnerships. And one of the things that I learned is that we have to realize that we can't always do it by ourselves. And so I learned very early that that was something that I wanted to really embrace that idea and to help others learn how they could do it. And so even now that I have my own business and I work with individual clients and corporations, that's something that we work into their strategies is, okay, where are there opportunities for you to collaborate and form partnerships so that you can grow faster and stronger than you could on your own?
That's a terrific place to start, Nikki. Let's talk about, so why do we want to collaborate?
Oh, wow. So you mentioned that I do branding and marketing strategy, and a big part of that, they say that your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. That's what a quote that I love from Jeff Bezos. And that's really all about, what are you known for? What is your reputation? What's your street cred, right? And so a big part of collaboration is about getting what you're known for spread out wider than you could get it done on your own. So when we're able to leverage other people's audiences to get our message out, to get our products and services out to a wider base than we could with just what we have on our own, that is a great reason to collaborate, because we have our own audience that we're serving, people that we've been able to connect with on our own. But when we're able to find the right partner to collaborate with that has alignment with us, then we're able to expand that so much faster and grow so much faster.
Nikki, that is so true. Growth doesn't have to be done individually. And that has been our old model, because we fear so much competition. So let's talk about collaboration versus competition. And then I want to come back to more on why collaboration. But let's talk a little bit about why. Why is collaboration more valuable, and how does that, the juxtaposition to competition?
Yeah, so I think so many of us look at everyone around us, whether it's in business or in our personal lives, as competition. And I use this, we talk about keeping up with the Joneses. For me, I mentioned this to you. I'm very much a competitive person. My husband and I are realizing that our daughter is not as competitive as we are, and it's hurting our hearts every day. I grew up as a competitive dancer. My husband did competitive sports in college. So that's been really hard on us. But for me, the older that I get, the more that I realize that I pushed myself really to compete against myself more than I ever have competing against other people. So every morning I go for a walk. I'm actually doing a 75-day challenge right now where I have to do 2 workouts a day. And so, yeah, I don't know why I decided to do that right now, but during COVID. But my first workout every day is a 45-minute walk. And I do a combination of walking and running. And so I found myself every day, I will push myself a little bit more to be like, okay, I'm going to run that much farther today. Like yesterday, that was my marker to stop running. Today, I'm going to go to that next stop sign. Or what was my pace yesterday? I'll look on my Apple Watch. What was my pace yesterday? Oh yeah, I'm going to beat that today. And so that is, I think when we make that shift of I'm competing against myself so that I can do better and try to improve on what I'm doing more so than I'm competing against everybody else. You stop seeing everyone else as your competitor, your adversary, and then it opens you up to see the possibility of these are people that I can add value to, they can add value to me, and these are potential collaborators or partners.
You know, Nikki, I think what's really important about what you said is we tend to think of competition as being negative. It's like it's either or. You can collaborate or you can compete.
Yes.
But when you can move beyond competition being against somebody, but it's to challenge your own personal self, competition now is how do I become the best? So now you, in a collaborative situation, you have something really valuable to offer because you're getting better. You're pushing yourself to get better and challenging perhaps others to do the same with you.
Right. Now, that's not to say, because I told you I'm competitive, that's not to say I'm not aware of who all is around me, because I do want to be the best at what I do. But I'm not looking at them like I have to beat them. So, and I think that that's something that we all need in business is you have to be aware of who else is in your space, but you don't need to look at them as, like you said, as a I win, you lose type situation.
So important. Another reason for collaboration, I think, is we're not going to have perhaps as much capital available down the road for growth and development. It's going to be tighter. We're going to have to be wiser about how we choose to do things. When we collaborate, we can use the resources of all of us. We can help each other grow. We become resourceful rather than looking at capital as the solution to all of what we need.
Yeah.
Maybe that will make us better people as well.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the, when we were talking about why collaborate, I think that's one of the benefits of collaborating because we're able to leverage and share the resources of the people that we work with. So when we're trying to, I know a lot of companies right now are trying to conserve resources. And if you're, for instance, if you're trying to work on a campaign to promote your new product or solution that you're putting out, or whatever it is that is a big project for or initiative for your business, and instead of trying to conserve your resources or not or pull back on what it is that you're trying to do to get this thing out there, why not look for collaborations where you can share in the cost or where you can leverage someone else's resources? It's almost like using other people's money, use other people's resources and their skills and strengths that maybe you don't have as much of to still get the same result or even a better result.
You know, Nikki, I've often said as I went into developing my own small business and manufacturing company, life was a lot easier when I had a big institution around me. I was part of a large organization because I had a lot of resources. I could go to people and say, need to pick your brain on this. I need you to help with this. And I could bring them together quickly and easily. And I think that's one of the problems that a lot of startups have is looking at who do you bring along with you in order to be able to grow that. And I think when you're building legacy, that also becomes so true.
Absolutely.
You don't have as much at your fingertips. So let's also talk about, how do you choose who you want to collaborate with? And one of the things you talk about that I just really love is character.
Absolutely. That is always the first litmus test for me, is character, because I want to make sure that anyone that I'm bringing into my space, whether it's for business or just for my everyday life, is someone that has similar character traits that I have, and values, people that have people that are going to be a fit for my world, people that I'm going to want to work with on a day-to-day basis. And so I'm very intentional about that. I have it written and I look at it often. I add to it often and revise and tweak. So as I work with more people, whether that be clients, whether that be people that are suppliers, whether that be people that I collaborate with, I find traits in them and I'm like, ooh, yeah, I want more of that in my life. I want more of that in my business. And I will add that to my list. And so I have a list of this makes up my ideal person that I want in my business. And so that's what I live off of. That's what I work off of.
So let's talk about, what are some of those character traits? Because I love your list and how you approach it.
So I won't read the whole list because that could take up the rest of the podcast. But I told you guys I add to this list. But one of the first ones on there is that they have to be actively ambitious. I am looking for people that are about making impact, and which is why I love your podcast about building legacy, because that's part of it for me. Is I want to work with people that are all about having an impact beyond themselves and are not just about talking about what they want to do, but we say this in my house all the time: don't talk about it, be about it. So I want people that are actively working towards whatever their vision is. They're working towards making that a reality.
Love that. Don't talk about it, be about it. Wow. Yeah. That's a huge challenge for all of us.
Yeah.
So what's next?
People with a servant heart. I'm looking for people that have a servant's heart. So that is greater for them than what's in it for me. So of course, we all we're looking for what is the benefit for ourselves, but I want people around me who are more concerned about what value can I offer to the world or to other people than about what I'm going to get in return for it. Because when we focus on serving other people, it's going to come back to us. That's just how that's how the world works. It's set up that way. And so when I can work with people who have that servant's heart, which works perfectly for collaborations, and I'm sure we'll talk about that some more too, but that is something that I'm looking for. And that's how I operate. And it's cool because I tend to attract people like that too.
With having a servant's heart, you have to have the desire for another to succeed. And in collaboration, that is part of collaboration. You're not there to succeed by yourself. You are there to succeed, yes, but the people you're collaborating with need to succeed in the same fashion. Absolutely. And it's not less than, you're building up together. And I think that's so easy to lose in our world today because we don't talk about this much.
Right. And a collaboration it's got the word, the prefix co at the beginning, which means it's together. It's more than one person. It can't just be about you. So like you said, there's got to be a benefit for both people. And even when you're structuring the collaboration, when you are thinking about what it might be, before you even present it to the other person, before you pitch it to the other person, you've got to have that clearly in your mind, what's in it for them before you're even thinking, before you start talking about, I have this vision for this thing, first, they don't care what your vision is. First, they
Right.
want to know, how is this going to benefit them? So, yes, I want people around me to have a servant's heart, but when you're presenting it, they want to know how it's going to benefit them too. And then you can talk about how we're going to use this to be of value to other people.
And I love that word that you used earlier, and that is how to build impact. Because people with servants' hearts generally are looking to really make an impact, to do something meaningful. So right now we've talked about actively ambitious, having a servant's heart. Those are two characteristics. A third one that you talk about is openness to learning. So talk about that a little bit more.
I don't know diddly squat. Coming into it with the I don't know diddly squat mentality. So I think being humble enough to recognize that I still have a lot to learn, and I can learn a lot from this person that I'm asking to partner with me. They have a lot of value. Otherwise, I wouldn't be coming to them to partner with me. So being open to say, okay, I am a boss at what it is that I do, but they're a boss in their own right. So let me learn what I can from them. And when we bring those two things together, we're going to create something even better. But you can't go into it like, I know it all. I'm just bringing you along so that I can grow my thing. You're just the sidekick over here. It's got to be, no, we're coming into this as peers, and I'm also wanting to learn from you in the process, because it is a process of, like we said earlier, of growth. It's not just a process of growth for my financial gain. When you're open to it, it can be a process of growth for you to grow in your mindset, for you to grow in your business acumen or whatever. Because again, this other partner is coming with strengths, skills, and resources that you probably don't have. So being open to learn is also a way that you can exponentially grow your business by learning, okay, what are you doing that I'm not doing that I can learn from?
So you're collaborating for a reason. You want to grow together. And if you aren't willing to learn and to receive from them what their expertise is, then it's very difficult to collaborate.
Yeah. And it's a wasted opportunity. Basically, every time that you collaborate with somebody, you're basically getting an invitation and an open door to get a behind the scenes peek at somebody else's business. Who would not want that? Who wouldn't want that?
Great point. So we have the actively ambitious, servant's heart, open to learn. And the fourth one that I love that you talk about is the airport test. So tell us about that.
So I started this when I first became a manager of the national sales team. And so we used to have to travel all over the country to go visit clients. And whenever I would have to hire a new person for my team, I would always think, gosh, there have been so many times when we got stuck in Podunk, USA, and stuck in an airport or have to stay overnight because we got snowed in or whatever. And you have to sit there with that person sometimes for hours or even overnight, and you've got to have conversation with them. So I was in interviews, that would be something in my mind is this somebody that I could be stuck in an airport with all day and it would be all good. Like we could have conversation, we could laugh, we could learn from each other. This is somebody that could be almost like a friend, like somebody that I could, that I would want to be around. And so I've taken that litmus test throughout my whole career. So I use that test with anybody that I'm bringing into my space. Is this somebody that I could sit in an airport with all day if I had to? So I use
That's
that.
great.
for anything.
I love that. Anything else that we missed in terms of character traits that we should talk about before we go talk about the questions that you always look for answers when you're looking for a collaborator partner?
I think one of the other ones that I look for, it's one that is, you can't get it right away, and it's trustworthiness. And so part of this goes into doing your research. So sometimes I know people get a little gun shy of doing things like a collaboration because they're worried about, is this somebody that I can trust? What if I get burned for whatever reason? And so you don't know that. It is a little bit of a risk when you get into a collaboration with someone, but that's why you have to do your research. And I think we talked about this a little bit in the last podcast, but you start small too. So it's almost like when you hire somebody into your organization, you don't put them in the C-suite their first day. Right. You start them out maybe in the mailroom, or you start them out as an analyst, or you start them out, you give them a small job first, or you might even start them out on a part-time basis or as a contractor to test them out and let them prove themselves first until they prove themselves trustworthy and that this is somebody that has staying power and that you can give them more responsibility and more opportunity. And so it's the same thing. So you do your research first, just like you would do when you were hiring a new employee. You do the background checks, you check out their social media, you check out, their references and things like that to make sure that this is somebody that is somebody that you want to bring into your space.
Okay, so then let's go talk about the questions that you ask or that you look for answers to as you're looking for somebody to collaborate with.
So whenever I meet someone new, again, because now we're not looking at everybody as competition, we can now be open to what are the possibilities with this new person. This is somebody that is a potential friend or, potential business partner or whatever, but I've got to figure out, are they a good fit for me? And if so, which category do I kind of put them in as I'm learning about them? And so I use 3 questions that I ask them. So of course I'm thinking in my mind too about, the qualities that I'm looking for, those character traits. But I have 3 questions that help me figure out really quickly, are they a good fit? Who is their audience? And is there an opportunity there? And so the questions that I ask, the first question is just really simply, what exactly do you do in your business? So I'm trying to find that out because I want to know, okay, what industry are you in? What do you do? That helps me to figure out, is there alignment or are they in an adjacent space? Because sometimes you might feel, especially for collaboration, you might not want somebody that's exactly in your space because you might think, well, that might be a little bit too close. But maybe somebody who's in an adjacent industry or an adjacent niche, that might be a good fit because, say, I'm a consultant and there's somebody who has a technology business, maybe their software is something that would be a benefit to the clients that I consult with. So that's what I'm trying to find out. What exactly do you do in your business? Second question is, who is the person that typically comes to you for that? So who's your audience? Who do you serve? So I'm looking for alignment in our audiences. Do we serve the same kind of people? So if we collaborate together, are we going to be targeting the same group of people? The third question that I ask is, what are you working on right now that you're really excited about? So this is my question I'm asking for opportunity. So is there something that maybe they might want to be promoting sometime soon that we could collaborate with together and we can do like a joint promotion together? So that's for collaboration, but that's also important when it comes to what category I'm putting them into. So you want to hear what the categories are?
Yes.
Okay. So again,
Of course.
the three questions are to figure out fit. So what exactly do you do, right? Do you do in your business? To figure out audience, who comes to you for that? Who's the person that comes to you for that? And 3, you're trying to find out opportunity. And that is, what are you working on that you're excited about right now? Okay. So the categories and the mnemonic or is it acronym? I always get confused on what that is, but the letters
that works.
Right. The letters that I use to help me remember the categories are script. So the script are the 3 questions that help you to figure out the categories that I put them in. Okay. So the S is for, they might be a supplier. So based on the answers to these questions, that might help me to figure out, okay, so based on what they do and who they do it for, they might be somebody that's a potential supplier for me. The C is for client. They might be a potential client for me. So especially when I find out what they do in their business and what they're working on right now that has them most excited, okay, they might be working on something that I can help them to execute. So they might be a potential client for me. R is for referral. So maybe what they do isn't really a fit for what I do. So maybe we're not even in the same spaces. But they might have, their audience might be people that might be some of the people that I'm trying to attract. So they might be a good person to refer. We can refer business to each other. The I is for influencer. So this is somebody that can connect me with their audience. So whether, we hear about influencers on like social media or people that have followers, right? But it doesn't even have to necessarily be that. It's just somebody who has access to a different audience than you or a larger audience than you do. And so sometimes it's even just connecting you with a person and not even necessarily a ton of people. So is this somebody who can connect me with people or a person that can help me in my business in some way? So that's why I'm asking, what do you do in your business? Who are the people that you work with? And what are you working on right now? Because any one of those questions could help me to figure out, oh, they might be able to connect me with, I've been looking for somebody that can do X. Based on the answer to those questions, that might help me to figure out if this person can connect me with someone in those spaces. The P is for partner. So partners could be a collaboration opportunity. So it can also be for sponsorships. So think about that for partners. This is somebody, or even joint ventures or anything like that. Any person that could be someone that you work with that is not necessarily in your business, but can be that you can work with on a project or an initiative or something like that. And then the T is for team. So we forget about this one all the time. As you are growing, you've got to hire a team. And it might not even be somebody that you're paying, but you might need people that are helping to support you as your business is growing. So as you're asking these questions, this might actually be somebody that you might consider bringing onto your team based on what they do. So I talk to business owners all the time that are looking for an accountant. They're looking for an attorney. They might even be looking for a graphic designer. They might be looking for a photographer who can do some some brand photography for them or something like that. So whatever it is, this might be somebody that you might be looking to do some contract work with, somebody that you might even consider hiring to bring on internally. So as you're asking these questions, that can help you to determine if this might be somebody that could be a potential team member for you.
Nikki, I think the acronym is so wonderful. It makes things easier when we break things into just script, okay, supplier, client, right? And you can go through the list. Mm-hmm. So I appreciate the way you take big decisions and you chunk it into a framework that anybody can use, and you can carry it with you. You don't have to have your computer to go through that list because it can be easily kept in your mind. I am going to end this podcast here today. And we're coming back with a second podcast and continuing this discussion on how do we collaborate. And in our next one, we're going to focus more on, so what are some of the concerns, problems that you need to overcome if you're going to really have an effective collaboration? So for those of you who are listening today, thank you for listening to Building My Legacy podcast. Nikki, thank you again for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
You've been listening to Building My Legacy podcast with Dr. Lois Sonste. To book your appointment with Dr. Sonste, visit www.buildtomorrow.com.